I have been working my way through the book of Job, looking at the Hebrew, doing a translation, looking at grammar analysis, and a commentary, trying to combine all of those areas. So now we are up to Zophar's first speech. We're in that section of debate where Job and his three friends are debating. Zophar now gives his speech. It is a cruel speech filled with a direct attack on Job as a sinner suffering for his sin. He attacks Job's claim to innocency, stating that Job is actually not suffering enough for his sin in verses 2 to 6. So God, he argues, who is all-knowing, certainly knows Job's guilt and how base Job is. That continues in verses 7 to 12. So the only course, Zophar argues, for Job is that God would put away and forgive him if he would put away his iniquity. And God would restore him and cause him to find security again. This is seen in verses 13 to 20. So I'm going to begin working through it, looking at, as I said, at the Hebrew with grammar and commentary. So we begin then with Zophar rebuking Job's plea for innocency in the first 7 verses. It reads, Vaya'an Zophar hanahamati vayomar. And Zophar the Naamatite answered and said. Vaya'an is from the root anah, a lamed hay root where the hay has elided. It's a cow imperfect third masculine singular from that root with a vav conversive. So Zophar the Naamatite answered and said. So Zophar is going to now reprove Job for his last speech. He brushes Job's speech aside as simply that which is full of words without any reality. So Zophar is very crass and, we have to say, I think, totally unkind. And so we continue then in verse 2. Harov devarim lo ya'aneh. Va'im ish sefatayim yitzdak. That is, should not the multitude of words be answered? And should a man, literally of lips, in other words, full of talk, of lips is the Hebrew, be accounted as just? Here we have ya'aneh, that is, should not the multitude of words, ye'aneh, be answered? The root is anah, and it means to answer. It is a nifal imperfect third masculine singular from anah. Notice what has happened here, looking at briefly the grammar. Yen aneh becomes ye aneh with compensatory lengthening under the yod, under the prefix, from a hirik to a tserik, because the noon has elided, the noon of the nifal. So should not the multitude of words, should it not be answered? And should not a man of lips, ish sephatayim yitzdak, be accounted righteous? Should a man, I should say, of lips, meaning the lips are going, many words, be accounted righteous. Yitzdak is a cow imperfect, third masculine singular from the root sadak, to be righteous. So again, as we've seen, he now is going to give his critique of Job's last speech. And he begins by just counting it as so many words that Job is talking, and they're baseless words to Zophar. And again, we're going to see, I think, the cruelty of Zophar and how wrong he was. Often, when people follow a certain thinking, they can be very unkind to others that differ. And this is the case here. So in verse 3, Badecha metim yacharishu, v'til ag ve'ein maklim. Here we have in other words, I would render it, your boastings have made men cause to be silent or hold their peace. You have mocked, and there is none who causes you to be ashamed. So with boastings, men, yacharishu, hold their peace, are caused to hold their peace or be silent. The root is charash. It's a hifil imperfect, third masculine plural from charash, to hold peace. Notice the pathak followed by the hirik yod, the AI vowel pattern showing a hifil stem. So your boastings, men, matim here would mean men, are holding or hold their peace or are silent. And you have mocked, v'til ag ve'ein maklim. You have mocked with none to make you ashamed. Notice here, til ag is from the root la'ag, to mock. It is a cow imperfect, second masculine singular from la'ag, and maklim means to mock from, to be ashamed, from kalam. And here we have til ag, a cow, as we've said, a cow imperfect, second masculine singular from la'ag. And then maklim, or maklim, here we have from kalam, to be ashamed. We have a hifil participle, masculine singular from kalam, to be ashamed. So as we look at verse 3, making a commentary on it, Zophar regards Job's declarations of innocence as simply empty boast and lies. In other words, and basically he says, you mock God. Zophar accuses Job then of mocking God, for he has attacked his traditional theology that all suffering is a result of sin, and God imposes suffering then because of sin. So again, one of the things we are learning here is often people can have such wrong ideas about suffering. And his idea was, well, if you suffer, it's because you must have done something wrong, because righteous people don't suffer. And of course, the whole book of Job is critiquing that idea. So then we move on to verse 4. vatomer zak lechi, uvar hayiti be'enecha. But you have said, my doctrine, what I believe, is pure, and I am clean in your eyes, in the eyes of God. Notice what tomar you have said is from the root amar, to say. It's a cow imperfect, second masculine singular from the root amar. By the way, this is a pay aleph root where you have the preference for the O vowel in the imperfect throughout the pay aleph roots. And this is something we've seen like in Genesis 1 over and over, vayomer, vayomer, and so forth. So you said, and we have a vav conversive here, or consecutive. You have said, pure is my doctrine. In other words, what I am saying is right and it's pure. So Zophar is quoting what Job had said. And I am clean in your eyes, in the eyes of God. Notice Hayiti is from the root Haya, to be. It's the cow perfect, first common singular from Haya. So I am clean in your eyes, was Job's claim. And Zophar is critiquing that. So Zophar regards Job's declarations of innocence to be wrong, to be simply empty lies. And so his speeches claiming innocency, again, have run directly counter to Zophar and his friends. To claim to be pure before God, as Job has done, and yet be suffering, is unthinkable. Such a doctrine is heresy to Zophar. So Zophar wishes that God would only speak and silence Job's blasphemy. God could speak. He is the only wisdom. So he in his wisdom could show Job his sin. Zophar even states that God is punishing Job much less than he actually deserves. And this would continue in verse 5 and 6. Notice it says, Va'ulam mi yitain Eloah daber, vayiftach sefatav iman. But indeed, oh, that God would give. That who would give, namely God, to speak. And I think we could render this, oh, that God would give his word to speak, understood here. Notice yatain is from natan, a peinun verb. It's a cow imperfect, third masculine singular from natan. And notice the noon has assimilated here. The noon, the first radical of the root, in the tav by progressive assimilation. Yintain becoming yitain, causing the doggish forte in the tav. So would that God, oh, that God would give, and I'm going to apply his word to speak. And notice daber is a PL infinitive from the root davar. Notice the pathak with the a vowel followed by the doubling of the bait, the middle radical, indicating a PL stem. So, oh, that God would speak and open his lips against you, with you, or I think here it could be rendered against you, with your accusations, hence against you. Notice yiftach is a cow imperfect, third masculine singular, from patach, to open, followed or preceded by the vav, and it's just a vav connective here, or so, and that he would open his lips against you. And then verse 6 continues, and that he would really tell you the secrets of wisdom, which obviously you don't understand. Now this is Zophar's argument. V'yaged lecha ta'alumot chokmah, ki kiflayim letushiyah, v'da ki yasher lecha Eloah me avonecha, and that he would declare to you the secret things of wisdom, and or that he would make manifold or make double what sound wisdom is known to you. And so know that God has forgotten toward you more than your iniquity deserves. So vayaged, that he would declare, is from the pay noon verb nagad. Notice the noon of the verb has assimilated into the gimel, and that happens over and over again in pay noon verbs, like natan, if you want to have an imperfect yintain, becoming yitain with the doubling of the tav. We have that here with the doubling of the gimel, where the noon by progressive assimilation has gone into the gimel, and we have an A-E vowel pattern indicative of a hifil imperfect, so that he would make known to you the secrets, ta'alumot chokmah, the secrets of wisdom. Would that God would make known to you the secret things of wisdom that you just don't understand, Job, is Zophar's argument. For kiflayim letushiyah, for literally double belonging to sound wisdom. In other words, he actually, his wisdom is too deep to understand. It's double wisdom. And would that God would make known to you that, because you're speaking ignorantly of God, and is Zophar's argument. And then know v'da ki yasher lecha Eloah me avonecha, and know that God forgets toward you more than your iniquity, or that God really is exacting, then, by way of more of a paraphrase, to you less than your iniquity really deserves. But literally know that he is caused to forget toward you more than your iniquity. That would be a literal rendering of the Hebrew. Vada is a cow imperative masculine singular from the root yada. Ki yasheh is from the root nasha, to forget. Again, it's a pay noon verb, a lot of pay noon verbs here, where the noon has assimilated into the sheen. Yan she becoming ya she. And here we have an AE vowel pattern indicative of a hifil imperfect third masculine singular. So know that that God forgets, we could translate it, toward you more than your iniquity really deserves. And so that's a hifil imperfect third masculine singular from nasha, where the noon by progressive assimilation has gone again into the sheen, causing a doubling. And here's a comparative use of the mem, more than your iniquity. So what Zophar is saying is that he's wishing God would speak and silence Job's blasphemy. And if he would speak, in his wisdom, he would show Job how he had actually sinned. And what's sad is Zophar even is stating that God is punishing Job much less than he actually deserves. So, who needs friends like Zophar? I mean, when you're down, you don't need someone coming along and making these accusations. So, I think the writer of Job is setting forth the attitude that some people have had, and that is if you are suffering, then obviously you've done something wrong and God is judging you. And to claim otherwise is blasphemy. This is Zophar's argument. So let me stop here. And I think by way of application, we have sometimes people saying today, if you just have enough faith, you wouldn't suffer with things. So you're sinning by not having enough faith, things like that. And I think this can be applied to what still goes on in sometimes even today. So this is a powerful book, and it has a lot of wisdom to teach us even today.